kick it off. But yeah, welcome everyone to ANZUK Education's Teach in the UK webinar. We do aim to keep these webinars under an hour because we know that you're giving up your Wednesday evenings and there are a lot of great shows on Netflix at the moment, so we don't want to keep you for too long. But yeah, throughout the webinar, feel free to ask any questions. We will have a Q&A at the end of the webinar. And then, yeah, if you're not inclined to ask questions out loud, you can pop them in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them. Perfect. So yeah, before we'll start, we'll just do an acknowledgement of country. So ANZUK respectfully acknowledges the traditional custodians of these lands, the Gadigal people of the Aurora Nation on which we are meeting today. We recognise their continuing connection to the lands, waters and skies. We pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all First Nations people present today. Cool. So we'll just do a little meet the team, which can always be a bit weird for, I don't know about you guys, but for me personally. But yeah, so my name is Ainsley. I'm based in the Sydney office. I have a background in early childcare and I worked as an educator for over 12 years. So transitioning into education recruitment felt like a natural progression for me. And I've been working with ANZUK for the past 3 years. So in my role with ANZUK, I focus on global group recruitment, and I absolutely love it. I get to have that exciting initial conversation with educators who are planning to make the move to the UK. It's always a really fun and happy phone call, and I really enjoy supporting educators throughout the process and staying in touch with them along the way. Yeah, Delaney?
Hello. I was about to say good morning. I do this every time. It's morning over this side. But yeah, my name's Delaney. So I'm the International Arrivals Consultant here in London. So yeah, we're nice and early over this side at the moment. But yeah, I've been with ANZ UK for, oh gosh, about 2 years now. I started with ANZ UK actually as a teaching assistant in London. So I've had that first-hand classroom experience. So hopefully I can offer a few little tips and tricks to you guys as well. But my background's actually in social work and youth work. So I worked in a school in Melbourne, back in Melbourne before I moved over. So I have that education experience there as well. And yeah, I absolutely love my job. It's, as Ainsley said, it's such a fun sort of experience, I guess, to have a chat with you guys about coming over and yeah, get you excited about the move. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Cool. G'day, my name is Jesse. I'm from New Zealand, first and foremost, so a bit different to everyone else in this call probably. So I've been over in London for about 2.5 years, working as a recruitment consultant in another company. I've just recently joined ANZUK, so it's actually my first time in education recruitment, which is going really good so far. So my area of expertise, I guess, is looking after a certain region within London for secondary schools. So that would be the southwest region, which is based around Clapham and some of these other areas, which I'm sure a lot of you would have probably heard of by now. So yeah, I look after a lot of the secondary schools down there. We've got a pretty good team here that looks after all of London. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I like that this one didn't include fun facts about yourself. I never know what to say with those. Cool. But yeah, for anyone new to ANZUK, we are a global recruitment agency that specialises in education and education only. We've been around for over 20 years now and we have over 300 staff globally. So we've got offices across Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Canada, and the US. A lot of our consultants actually come from an educational background themselves or have made the move overseas to live and work. So we're all super passionate about education and travel. Our service for our educators is completely free, which is always a nice plus. And we do offer that 360 support. So meaning we can help you find work in the UK, and when and if you make it back to Oz, we can also support you here as well when it comes to work. But yeah, so just what we'll be covering today. So yeah, just like life admin, the work opportunities we have in the UK. We'll go over a little bit of compliance, but not too much because that may put you all to sleep at this hour in the evening. And then we'll chat about the ANZ community that we really focus on here in Australia and in the UK, and just yeah, how we'll support you when it comes to your journey across to the UK. Cool. So yeah, like why teach abroad? So the majority of the educators that I speak with, their main reason is to see the rest of Europe. The UK is like the gateway to Europe, and it's a really easy way to fill up your passport. And like, who doesn't want to experience a hot Euro summer at least once in their lifetime? It's definitely, yeah, like a big bucket list thing for a lot of educators. And then, yeah, also like the life experience and, yeah, just the personal growth that you're going to gain from that. I'm actually speaking to a group of girls at the moment. They're a group of friends. They're moving to London in September and they're from Griffith, New South Wales. So moving to London's going to be a huge move for them. And I'm sure they're going to learn a lot along the way. But yeah, like besides that, the career development as well that you're going to gain when it comes to teaching in the UK, you're going to, yeah, get access to the UK schooling system and just take that experience with you with wherever you go. I know a lot of teachers who have done that have said it, yeah, was a really impactful way for them to grow and learn as a teacher. Perfect. Cool. Delaney, do you want to go over the steps in the journey?
Absolutely. Yeah, so as Ainsley mentioned before, what would happen as the beginning step in your journey is that initial contact call from your local consultant in your area in either Australia or New Zealand or Canada. So basically, the goal of that is to figure out what your plans are and kind of like talk you through all the bits and pieces that you might need to think about a bit earlier. So things like visas, flights, all that kind of fun stuff. From there, if you're moving to London, you'll get put in touch with me pretty quickly. So you'll hear from me quite quickly. And then we'll organise an initial call as well from over here in London to chat through those plans, those travel plans, the goals around work and all that sort of stuff. So hopefully lend a bit of support around London or UK specific things when it comes to work and living. If you're moving out to the regions, you'll also have your own consultant from one of the regional teams as well. So whether that's Surrey, Bristol, Wales, Southampton or Essex as well. So you'll get in touch with them. Then basically what happens, depending where you are in your planning stages, if you've got quite a quick turnaround, which does happen a lot for our Aussies and Kiwis, where they're like, yep, cool, I've bought my flights, I'm moving over in a month. You're like, excellent. So the turnaround will be nice and quick. If you're a planner like myself, you might have a 12 months before you actually make the move. So I'll be in contact with you quite frequently throughout that time period just to check in, see how things are going. There are lots of life admin things that you'll need to consider when moving over, and that's basically what I'm here for, is to support those sorts of things. Then what happens from there, about 2 months before you arrive to the UK, you'll get booked in for what we call your registration. And your registration is a very informal video call with myself, and what we will do is go through the compliance information. So as Ainsley mentioned, we're not going to go through that in detail because it will probably bore you at this point in time. But I go through everything with compliance in a lot of detail. So you're not going to be missed or you're not going to be behind the eight ball on it. So we go through all of that stuff together in your registration. Then what happens is the compliance team over here will go through all of your documentation and do what's called clearing you for work. So clearing you for work means that they've gone through your reference checks, done all your police checks, done all that kind of fun stuff. So you're vetted and able to work with children over here in the UK. We aim to have you cleared for work by the time that you land in the UK. So if you landed, say, on a Monday and you're like, yep, I actually want to work tomorrow, you'd be able to get out for work the next day. So we try to make that transition as smooth as possible. I'd be a bit concerned if you wanted to work the day after you've landed, but some people do. So we like to give you that option. So yeah, obviously, as soon as you're cleared for work, that means you're able to work as soon as you'd like to. So yeah, pretty well supported the whole way through, I would say. You hear a lot from me. You'll hear a lot from your team over in Australia and New Zealand as well. So love to do the classic, no question is a dumb question. So I guess that's what they're for in all of your steps of your journey.
Perfect.
Beautiful. Jesse, feel free to jump in at any point with this one. But when we are looking at the best time to arrive, so usually what we recommend if you're wanting to line your arrival up with the school academic year over here, really good idea just to keep an eye on that academic calendar. Not sure if most of you are aware, but the academic calendar over here is very different to what it is back home. So our academic year actually starts in September and finishes in about mid-July. So we have that big summer break during the European or the UK summer over here. So just be aware of what that looks like. We do have 3 big terms throughout the year. So we've got the autumn term, the spring term, and the summer term. And these terms are split into what we call half terms. So usually the half terms will last for about 7 or so weeks, and then you'll have a week break, and then you'll have another 7 or so weeks, and then you have a bit longer break. So it might be a 2-week break like we have at Easter that's coming up, and then you'll start the new term. So lots of break opportunities, which is great. So lots of opportunity for travel. I think most of our educators will use those half-term breaks and the in-between split breaks to travel. So that's always a really good option. But I guess, Jesse, did you want to jump in and chat about, good arrival times for roles and things like that? Like any good times that these guys can consider for, contracts and things?
Yeah, sure. So as Delaney was saying, I guess arriving before the autumn term, if you wanted to get a long-term booking for the rest of the academic year, would be one way to do it. Or it's also arriving at a pretty good time into summer to get yourself settled in before winter. So like every term, there usually is some vacancies that will come up within some of the schools. So sort of arriving before in the school holidays or just before that would be a great time for you to be pre-placed within these schools. Like going into like the early spring term, there's in the start of January, there's always roles around as well. But it's also midwinter here, which can be a bit of a tough time to just go straight into it if you're in a hot Aussie summer also. And going on from there, the pre-booking for the summer term happens around about now in March. Going on from there, if you're trying to get booked into for the following academic year, September once again. And once again, it's a very nice time to be moving over.
Cool. I was just add to that as well. So when it
Yep.
comes to contracts, we'll chat about that in a little while anyway. But we obviously, as Jesse mentioned, we do get most of our contracts at the beginning of an academic year, heading into January, and then we obviously have some heading into the summer term as well. That's not to say we don't get contracts throughout the year. It's obviously just as and when that need sort of arises. So if you are wanting to get contract work, so same school for a longer period of time, we can definitely still support that. These would just be the best times that we would sort of recommend for more availability for roles.
Cool. So I'm going to run through the visa requirements. The most popular visa that majority of our educators head over on is your Youth Mobility Scheme visa. So that's for anyone who's Australian, New Zealand, and Canadian citizens. You do have to apply before your 36th birthday. So that rules me out. Can't get that one, unfortunately. They do recommend that you apply for that 6 months before you intend to arrive in the UK. In saying that, though, I know I've chatted with educators who have applied for their visa 3 months before they've headed to the UK. So again, like Delaney said, it just kind of depends on what type of person you are. If you like to pre-plan things like myself and Delaney, or you're sort of like the last minute sort of person, it just really depends. They do say that processing time, we do have 3 to 10 weeks, but they do sort of say on their website that it can take anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks for your visa application. If you're in the process of applying and it's been 3 weeks, don't fret too much. It will come. It does happen. It just depends really on how many applications they're having at the time, and they do need to send your passport across to the UK, so that can cause a bit of a delay there. The Youth Mobility Visa gives you 2 years to live and work in the UK, and you do have the possibility of extending it for 3 if you're not ready to come home just yet. There is 2 costs involved with the Youth Mobility Scheme visa. So you have your actual application cost, which is £298, and then you also have your immigration healthcare surcharge costs. So that just covers you for the NHS whilst you're over in the UK, and that is £1,552 for your immigration healthcare surcharge. So the total cost of the visa, it's a hefty number, and it converts to $3,547 Australian. It's a big chunk of money, but you won't regret it. As I said, it gives you that opportunity to live and work in the UK for 2 years. And I'll just important to mention because we do get asked this quite a lot. When it comes to the immigration healthcare surcharge, you do have to pay for that. It is a mandatory requirement when it comes to your visa application. And unfortunately, you can't tap into just paying it for 1 year if you only plan on living in the UK for 1 year. It does cover you for the 2 years. So whilst you're over there, like, I don't want anyone to get sick or anyone to get injured, but if you've got some dental work that you need to get done and can't afford it in Australia, get some fillings done while you're over there because it will be covered under the NHS. And from what I know, it's cheaper in the UK. But yeah, if you have any sort of stresses or would like to be guided through your visa application process, because it is a bit of a daunting thing to apply for, we do offer a visa support team here in Australia. So we will connect you with Sharon, who's a lovely lady who's located in Victoria. That does come at a fee of $150, but Sharon's amazing. What she'll do is she'll guide you through the process, make sure you filled in the application correctly before you lodge your application. And then she also guides you through the whole process. So if there's any discrepancies that come back, she will help you with that. If you need, if you're freaking out, like, where is my visa, you can always get in touch with Sharon as well. But yeah, some other visa options that we have is your Ancestry visa. So that's when you have one or more grandparents who were born in the UK. This visa gives you 5 years to live and work in the UK, but this one is definitely a lot more costly. You're looking at $11,143 for that visa. So yeah, if you've got the cash and you want to live in the UK for 5 years, it's definitely a great option. And then our other visa options, we have your HPI visa, which is for university students of Melbourne and Queensland who graduated in the last 5 years. You have your skilled worker visa, which is being sponsored by a school. With that, though, our sponsorship opportunities aren't in abundance. They can be quite tricky to secure. I don't know if you guys wanted to delve into that a little bit more, Delaney and Jesse, when it comes to the sponsorships.
Yeah, so with a sponsorship visa or a skilled worker visa, in education, we'll be completely transparent. They are a lot harder to get. In education specifically, as much as there is a teacher shortage, schools over here in the UK just don't have it in their budgets often to be able to sponsor teachers because the sponsorship visa for a school is quite expensive. In saying that, though, we definitely still have done that before and we still continue to do it. It would just be more so predominantly, I would say, outside of London. So we down in Surrey, we've had a lot of success down in Surrey, and we do also know there's quite a lot of schools that are popping up in towards Essex that are looking for sponsorship as well. So if you're open to different areas outside of London, it's definitely a possibility. One thing that we do find is that it's more common for secondary school teachers than it is for primary school teachers, unfortunately. Primary schools obviously run a little bit differently. Secondary, where it's a lot easier for our consultants to be able to pre-place you and potentially pre-place a sponsorship. So yeah, you've got a lot more flexibility if you're open to outside of London when it comes to sponsorship.
Perfect. Thank you. I've definitely, Essex, got a soft spot for Essex. I just spent a month in Essex when I was in London, and I love it there. And it's very accessible to get into London from Essex, so you still get to maybe live in London and then travel to Essex for work. So it's definitely being open to the opportunities that come with sponsorships. And then so partner and spouse of these visas as well is another opportunity for people who might have a partner who was born in the UK. And then, those ones who are lucky enough to have the golden ticket, the UK passport, what every Aussie and Kiwi dreams of having, I think. Yep. Cool. Cool. So the next part of our webinar, we're just going to run over our locations that we have in the UK. So as you can see, we have offices and sports schools in London, Surrey, Essex, Wales, Bristol, and Southampton. But I'll leave it to the ones who are living in London to chat all things London for us.
I was about to talk with my mute on. Do it all the time. I was like ready to go. Okay, so running through some of our offices. So a lot of the time, most people traveling across will end up in London. As Ainsley said, it is the sort of gateway to the rest of Europe. It is also a big city, so you have a lot more access to a lot more things. In saying that, though, the regions are also beautiful and really, really good options if you're not looking for the hustle and bustle of London. So just running through just sort of what you can sort of expect when it comes to rent, public transport, and cost of living. I think this is the thing that everyone gets very stressed about. Everyone's like, London is so expensive. Don't get me wrong, it is expensive, but like we're living and working here, so you guys will be absolutely fine. When it comes to rent costs, so a room in London is anywhere between £750 to £900 approximately per month. That tends to fluctuate a fair bit, if I'm being honest as well. Sometimes, depending on the time of year, rent can skyrocket and then rent can drop down. It's also going to depend whereabouts in London you're looking at living. Popular places like Clapham, for example, or even Hackney, they can really jack those prices up because they're desirable places to live. I like to put that in quotations because they are great, but there's lots of really, really nice areas of London. So when it comes to planning out the areas, if you have no idea where to start, I've got my trusty little handbook of places that I like to send off to educators, so happy to talk you through those areas anyway, so don't get too put off by the rent price. Public transport, so you can get monthly passes for public transport that are around £184 per month. In saying that, though, if you're living and working in London, you'll probably just find it's just as easy to tap your card going in and out of public transport. It obviously caps at a certain amount. I believe the cap is around £10 per day, and that's if you're going across multiple zones and touching in and out quite a lot. So, for example, I go from zone 3 to zone 1 twice a day in and out of work, and it costs me about £7.40, I think. So public transport can be a little bit pricey when it comes to tubes, but the buses are really cheap. And also, obviously, the frequency of public transport in London is a massive selling point. In terms of cost of living, you can get a pub meal for about 15 quid. Coffee, I just amended that to £4 because I feel like coffee is creeping up, which is really annoying. If you drink like an espresso, though, you'll be absolutely fine. Anything with alternative milk, like anywhere, is always going to be more expensive if you've got a fancy coffee order. And unfortunately, the cost of a pint, I feel like, is creeping up to around the £7 to £8 mark as well. So the further outside of London go, you'll be able to find pints for like £3.50, but in central London, in inner London, you're going to be looking for a bit more of an expensive pint. I've not been home for a couple of years, but apparently it's getting quite expensive in Australia as well. So I hear it's relatively comparable.
Yeah. Can confirm, and I have a fancy coffee order. The soy flat white is it's definitely hurting the back pocket. And yes, beer is skyrocketing. Yep.
Awesome. So our little sister down in southwest England, I like to call her, is Surrey. So Surrey is about a 45-minute train journey into central London. It's super, super close. Surrey is a really good option if you are looking for accessibility to the city, but also are looking for a lot more open spaces, a lot more green spaces, and a bit more of a quiet sort of lifestyle. these are our two of our lovely consultants, Jason and Jordan, down in Surrey, and they absolutely love it. Jace absolutely loves it. So Surrey, being that little bit further out from London, your rental cost is going to come down. So you're looking between £500 to £700 per month for a room in Surrey. Monthly pass for public transport around £95. Obviously, that does creep down. With public transport, as I said before, really accessible to get into London. It'll just be things like getting around Surrey might be a little bit more tricky because they obviously don't have like a tube system, for example. So just to be aware of that, if you're planning to move down to Surrey, make sure you have a chat with myself or the Surrey team about whereabouts in Surrey, because obviously it's quite a big area, and if it's worth potentially getting a car for that time period, or if you'll be fine catching trains around there. Cost of living comes down ever so slightly. Looking at a pub meal around 13 quid, a coffee probably will drop down to about £3, and a pint, I'm probably going to say that's around £6 now rather than 5. But yeah, it comes ever so slightly further down.
Oh, now we've got the great land of Essex. So that is, I guess northeast, just outside of London. It's an area just outside. Once again, like Surrey, if you like green open pastures and a great accent, then Essex is the way to go. But on the screen here, we've got TJ and Roberta. They're the team. They're actually a new branch just started. I think earlier about mid last year, just to help out up there. So it's once again like Surrey, a lot cheaper in rent and cost of living. About $700 per month for rent. About 45 minutes to an hour into central London, depending on your train. And yeah, once again, cost of living is a lot lower than central London. Obviously, you're slightly out, but it's a lot better that way. So you're looking at about £13 for a pub meal, $3.50 for a coffee, which might be up to £4 now as well. And same with a beer, which is five quid. So it's a great area. There's a lot of nice spots up there. If you can handle the accent, I'm sure you'll be fine.
You just need it. What's that show? The Only Way, is it Essex?
Excellent.
Yeah.
I was about to drop that in, but
Yeah.
if you want to have a look at that, and you'll be able to see what's going on up there.
Just do like a binge watch on the flight over.
Yeah.
I was going to say with Essex as well, this is one thing that our lovely colleague TJ loves to say. The Elizabeth line, which is one of the tube lines, it's a new tube line in London, goes all the way from West London into Essex. So you can actually get from Essex into central London very, very quickly. So it has that really quick accessibility as well. If you ever speak to TJ or speak to the Essex team about work, they'll be like, yeah, just jump on the Lizzie line, just jump on the Lizzie line. So you do have that accessibility with Essex as well. It's nice and close.
Perfect, cool. Yeah, and so we also support in Wales, so Cardiff, Wales. So yeah, this is the team in Wales. So yeah, Wales is definitely more sort of like your green pastures, hilly, sort of if you're city living, it's just not your vibe. Wales is definitely a fantastic option. Also, if you are a rugby union fan, that's definitely like the heart of rugby union. They absolutely, well, yeah, sorry, there's a Kiwi here, shit. I mean, excuse me. But yeah, sorry about that. I will retract that statement. But yeah, they definitely huge rugby union fans. So if that's something that you're into, Wales is definitely a great option. And like I said, like it's absolutely stunning over there. Green hilly, like if you're more of an outdoorsy person, Wales is definitely a great option. You get the opportunity to also learn a little bit of Welsh while you're teaching in the schools, but it's not a requirement. If you don't know any Welsh, that's fine. You'll learn along the way. So that's always, always fun learning a new language. But yeah, so looking at rent in Cardiff, you're looking at 500 to £650 per month. Public transport is about £40 per month. The public transport is accessible, but a lot of people may get like a secondhand car while they're over there because that commute to and from work might be a little bit further away. So yeah, cost of living is relatively cheaper in Wales as well. You're looking at about £15 for a pub meal, £3 for a coffee, but I guess the cost of living's hitting everywhere, so that may have gone up. And then about £4 for a pint of beer as well. Perfect.
Cool. Staying over that side of, I guess, the UK, Bristol. I wouldn't say it's right next to Cardiff, but it's quite close. So it's on the west side of the UK. We've got a very lovely team over there that's got great schools also. So in regards to Bristol, I've been a couple of times before. Great spot, great city, a really good culture there also. So yeah, I'd highly recommend it. But in regards to like rent costs, everything like that, once again, outside of London, you're looking at 500 to 750 pounds per month. It's a lot cheaper than central London, obviously. Monthly pass for public transport can obviously range depending, but you're on average maybe 70 pounds per month. And going on, looking at these prices, I'd love to have these prices in London, but we've got 13 quid for a pub meal, 3 quid for a coffee, and 5 for a beer. So yeah, once again, it's basically once you get out of central London, these prices drop massively. But yeah, I couldn't highly recommend Bristol enough. So have a crack if you want to.
Cool. And yeah, so our other location is Southampton. So Southampton, I haven't been there myself, but from what I've seen and read, it's like this cute little harbourside town, and it's along is it the south coast of the UK, if I'm correct? Yeah,
Yep.
so anyone who's sort of used to living near the water or is up for a sea change, Southampton is definitely the place to head to. When it comes to looking for rooms to rent in Southampton, you're looking about 550 to 800 as well for Southampton. Public transport, you're looking about £68 per month. And then, yeah, the cost of living is a lot more affordable in Southampton as well. You're looking at £12 for a pub meal, £3 for a coffee, and then, yeah, 4 for a pint. It's definitely, from what I know, a little holiday destination as well. Everyone sort of heads there in the summertime because it is quite coastal. So that's always something to bear in mind, sort of like, and I think like with any of the locations that we've gone through, if you're looking to move into the heart of the city of any area, the cost of living is always going to be a little bit more expensive. So it's always helpful to be open to sort of maybe moving just a bit outside of each location. Yeah.
Awesome. So finding somewhere to live, I think this is the question that we get the most, and it's I think the biggest pain point I think for most people. But when it gets to finding some permanent accommodation over here, we understand it's very, very stressful because often you're moving to the other side of the world and you're like, I don't know where I'm living or what I'm doing. So what we recommend is arranging some temporary accommodation for the first like 2 to 4 weeks for when you get here. Obviously, there's a range of hostels in London. Doing a sublet even. So sublet, if no one knows what subletting is, obviously it's someone who's like renting out their room while they're away or something like that. That happens a lot with Aussies and Kiwis over here. So just say, for example, if Jesse's gone on a 2-week holiday, he might rent out his room to someone on Aussies or Kiwis in London for like 2 weeks. So doing stuff like that is a really good way to secure some temporary accommodation and also meet some people as well. Airbnbs obviously is also a big one, and even budget hotels too. Obviously, London itself can be quite expensive for accommodation. So that's why we usually recommend keeping that subletting option open if you're able to, because you'll often find that that's probably going to be the most bang for your buck rather than paying for a hotel for 4 weeks, because that could be quite expensive on the wallet. In terms of some top tips in finding accommodation and permanent accommodation where you're going to be living, just make sure you do lots of research into the areas that you might be interested in before you get here. As I said before, I can more than happy to send out my little pocketbook of places to look into. Often I'll go through a map of London and take people through kind of like a visual of what to expect and where things are when we're having our chats as well. So more than happy to do that with anyone as well. But yeah, just looking at the different areas, each area of London, in my opinion, looks very different. So the south looks very different to the north, and the east looks very different to the west. It all looks quite different. So just do lots of research, do the classic Google search, but I always recommend looking on TikTok. TikTok's a really good sort of resource to visually see what to expect as well. when it comes to looking for rental accommodation as well, take really good note of what's being added to your rental. So things like shared living spaces aren't as common in London as you would think. A lot of the times, landlords will like to turn a living space into another bedroom. So just be aware that that can happen. So look at things like that. See if the place is close to public transport, if it's close to a high street. A high street's basically just a main road, or things like if it's furnished as well. So just keep an eye on those sorts of things. But as I said before, give yourself that 2 to 4 week time period for when you arrive here to go out and view properties yourself, check out the different areas. Usually in that time period, we find that most people will find and secure a place. I think in the last, 4 to 6 months, most of my educators have locked something in within about 2 or 3 weeks. So it does happen, but you obviously are not going to be able to do that from Australia or New Zealand. It is quite difficult to do. In terms of living in the UK, rent's usually paid on a monthly basis. It'd be very strange to pay on a weekly basis or a fortnightly basis. Most places are already furnished, however, some are not. So just make sure you double check that when you're looking at listings and things like that. As I said before, subletting options are really, really common in the UK. I always recommend looking on Aussies and Kiwis in London as a really good starting point. You'll notice that on those pages there is a weekly flat post. I believe it's Tuesday for Aussies. I don't know what it is for Kiwis. Jesse, do you know when the
Sunday night, I believe.
There you go, cool. So Sunday
Yeah.
night for Kiwis and then Tuesdays for the Aussies in London. Basically, on those flat posts, people will start posting in the comments room availability. It might be for permanent accommodation or subletting, but it's just a good way to look at the different areas, see what you're going to get for your money, and if you are close to moving over, it might be worth contacting people that way as well. And then the other big option is spare room. This is like the holy grail of finding accommodation in London. This is how I found my room, and how a lot of my friends have found their room as well. Spare Room's an app. You can pay for it or you can do the free one. Would recommend downloading it as the free one to begin with, and then once you are here, I recommend paying for it for a week or two, because when you pay for it, it means you can contact people first and you have more option for more spaces and all that sort of stuff. But it's basically a platform where people will post if there's a spare room in their property. So for example, we had a spare room in my house recently and we posted an ad and got someone from Spare Room through there. Rental agencies will also post ads on behalf of houses as well. So it is a really good tool just to sort of start looking at. If you're quite early in your planning phase, just have like a bit of a browse, check out the different areas and what kind of thing you're going to get for your money as well. And then we also have Rightmove. Rightmove is kind of a little bit like realestate.com, like we have back home. Rightmove and Zoopla and Open Rent are 3 really good websites to have a look for that. So that way you'd be going directly through a rental agency. So a little bit different than finding a spare room maybe. It might be finding a whole property. So if you are moving over as a couple or with a group of you as friends and you're like, well, there's 5 of us, we need a 5-bedroom house, it might be a good idea to go directly through a rental agency as well. Jesse, have I forgotten anything?
No, that's summed up very well.
Cool.
Awesome. So moving on from the I guess the nitty gritty stuff there into types of work offered. So like obviously there'll be, like, if you're a teacher, there'll be primary, secondary, and nursery, and within that there would be, like, if you're a maths teacher for a secondary or a science teacher, there's obviously supply work or long term for overall teachers. Should we let this person in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep going, Jesse.
Cool. So any questions on that, let me know. Teacher's assistants. So this is someone or an educator that is unqualified. They would sit in a classroom and help out the teacher with either one-to-one with a student or just general classroom help. Like, we have a lot of people that come over with their partners that one of them's a teacher, and they would bring, like, their partner or friend over with them, and they could help with the TA side of things as well. So essentially it's just assisting in the classroom or one-on-one mentoring or helping the student write or anything like that. And it's a great way if you're looking for work. If you've just come over and you're looking for work before you get your, I guess, if you've got another profession, it's a great way to ease into the London life, and we can get you sort of cleared before that, get you out to schools, and get you earning some money if you're sort of struggling to find your profession. So cover supervisor is the next thing, which is sort of like an in-between of a TA and a teacher. Essentially, it's an unqualified teacher again, but you'd be up sort of teaching the class with a pre-planned like day, for example. So a TA, a teacher assistant, can sort of morph into a cover supervisor role if you've got like, the confidence to do that. It's just one of those things. If you're available to public speak in front of potentially a class of 30, you're also more likely to get booked out into schools as well if you're doing cover supervisor work. But it's also a great way to step into, I guess, experience for teaching also. Going on from there, an exam invigilator, it's essentially someone that helps with the exam period. So it could be, schools do come to us a lot to get a bunch of people in to help with the exam period, which would be like taking the role for the day, making sure the students aren't teaching. It could be helping with a student potentially if they need like writing or anything like that. And we get like a massive bunch of that probably around the exam period. So it could be like sort of May, early January is sort of the two periods, I believe. So yeah, there's always that to help out as well. And then other support roles. We've got I guess we've got a function here that helps the schools with all these extra roles. So we have had instances where like we've put someone into a school as a TA or a cover supervisor who's got experience as a HR person or in finance, and they've actually kind of gone from a TA role into a finance person role. So there's those sort of roles, I guess, PA to headmaster as well, and any of the back office roles we can support as well. Did I miss anything there, Delaney? Or
No, I think that's pretty bang on. I would just say with the other support roles, usually we are finding at the moment that schools in the UK want people in those roles once they've had UK specific experience, which is like Jessie said, it might be a good idea if you're keen on doing like some admin, or if you do have a background in it might be school finance, but it's not in the UK, it's in Australia or New Zealand. It might be worth jumping in, do some TA or cover supervisor work for a couple of months. That way your foot's in the door, and then we can kind of like wiggle you into the support role from there. They're a little bit funny about support roles from the get-go unless you've had UK experience. It makes things nice and fun for us. Awesome. So just off the back of that, so work opportunities. So we do have a range of different types of roles that we can offer alongside what your specific qualification or teaching assistant type role that you're looking for. So the first one is what we call supply, so day to day. In Australia, we call it CRT. I think in New Zealand it's relief teaching. It's called a range of things, but basically your day to day work is if you're looking for that really flexible side of things. So you're wanting to teach, you want to try out a few different schools, but you may be wanting to take a couple of long weekends in the first couple of months of being here, and you're like, do you know what, I don't want to commit to a school just yet. We can support you with that day-to-day supply. When it comes to teachers, we do have a lot of supply work for teachers, which is great, and we do also offer an ambassador agreement for our qualified teachers, which I'd be more than happy to chat to you guys about as well. But for our teaching assistants, we do also have supply work, but if you are looking for 5 days of work, we usually encourage you to be open to a contract or a block of work, just because the nature of the way that TA work is looking at the moment in the UK, that's the type of work that we tend to see a bit more, is more so in the contract or blocks work. Fixed term contract. So if you're wanting to work in the same school, but you're not wanting to commit to a really long term contract, a short contract or a block might be a way to go. So these can be anywhere from like a 2-week block to, it could be like 4-week block where you're being booked out at the same school, but you obviously know where you're going every morning, but you're obviously not committing to a role long term. So we do have those as well. And then we have our long term contracts. So if you're looking for something super stable, you're wanting to get paid that higher pay rate as well, and you're wanting to have your own classroom, or you just want to be in the same school, get to know the community, be involved with the environment as well, long-term contract would be the way to go. So that's where you'd be booked out for an extended period of time. Long-term contracts don't have to be a full academic year. They can be maternity covers, they can be a term long. It just sort of depends on the needs of the school, but yeah, we definitely have a lot of those in those time periods where we start at the beginning of the year, January, and into our summer term as well. So quite a lot of opportunity for flexibility if that's what you guys are looking for.
I'll just let this person in.
Oh, someone's
Okay.
got a question.
So,
Go for it, Angelica. Ooh. Did you have a question, Angelica? I don't know what's happening. If it's not working, oh, there we go. Oh, can you unmute her? Ainsley, are you able to unmute her? I don't know if I can do that. This is
let
too
me
high tech for
see.
me.
is it? Yeah.
That work? Oh, oh no. How do I? Oh gosh.
Do you want to maybe pop the question in the chat? If you
Yeah,
guys have
sorry
questions, maybe
guys.
just pop them in the chat while I have a bit of a fiddle with this and see if I can work it
Yeah.
out. Just, yeah, pop them in the chat for now and I'll be monitoring the chat. Oh, there we go. We have a question. Would it be difficult to get a TA job without having had experience in Australia? Totally fresh. No, absolutely fine. I did the exact same thing myself. My background obviously was still in schools, but I'd never had any in-classroom experience. We often find that a lot of our teaching assistants don't have classroom experience, which is absolutely fine. If you've got experience with children in general, whether that's in an informal or formal setting, so it might be like nannying, babysitting, or just looking after a bunch of cousins, that sort of stuff is still really advantageous. So yeah, absolutely fine. We often find that with a lot of our overseas educators, schools will love you based on your experience. You're willing to give it a crack. So no, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, and yeah, just on that, like I feel like a lot of like our really good TAs that have come over from Australia and New Zealand or overseas who haven't had experience within schools, it's sort of like they've got the like up and go to go to a school and be able to sort of merge with the kids from that perspective. Just because majority of the people that are coming over this side of the world are really wanting to get into work, wanting to get into schools, and the schools really bounce off that. It's not like it's someone going to a school that doesn't want to be there, if you get me. So it's all about attitude at the end of the day, I reckon, for majority of the TA work. So yeah.
I was just thinking, should we just crack on with the next little bit and do the
Yeah.
questions at the end? Is that helpful? Oh,
Yeah,
Angelica's
sure.
just popped her question. We'll answer your question at the end, Angelica, if that's okay. Just so we can continue yapping at you guys and then we'll be done.
Cool. Okay. I'll carry on with the types of schools and nurseries. So, yeah. So I guess just to begin, I guess most of the schools are pretty similar to probably back home to what you're used to. Obviously, like with the early child education, that's the really younger years before you get into primary schools. So that could be a range from a couple of years old till 5 years old, I believe. And once you get into primary schools, that's anywhere ages between 5 and 12, I believe, and secondary is on from that. So it just depends on what, I guess, experience you've got also. And then going on from there, public and independent schools. Public is funded by the government. Independent is essentially private or I guess funded by a trust. And going on from there is the special needs education schools. So there is a lot of SEN schools around the country, and they're heavily funded also. So yeah, they're quite stock standard and very similar to home when it comes to schools. So I guess there's probably more in-depth conversations we would have with you once you're coming over, and we can start talking about what the ins and outs of each individual school. But as an overall, it's quite similar to back home as well.
Yeah, so the most important question, and probably what everyone wants to know, is the pay rates. Unfortunately, like we can't really give you a overall, amount when it comes to the pay because there are so many variables when it comes to the pay rate when you're teaching in the UK. So TAs are going to be getting paid quite differently to your primary and your secondary teachers. It depends on the school. If you're doing supply work or you're agreeing to a contract within a school, it's something that we're more than happy to chat with you about when and if you book a call with us. We can go in depth into that. But yeah, unfortunately, yeah, we can't really give you a sum during a webinar because yeah, there's just too many variables to go over. But yeah, Delaney, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's pretty bang on. More than happy to have a bit more
Mm,
of an in-depth chat. It's also very dependent on qualifications,
mm.
location, and things like that as well. London does often pay a little bit more than the other regions just because of the demand and how the pay scaling works. But yeah, just definitely have a chat with myself or your local consultant in your country. More than happy to sort of run you through what that would look like. But I would say that the wages are livable. I'll leave it at that.
You can survive.
Yes.
Uh, Perfect. Cool. So we'll just go over the incentives and bonuses ANZ UK have to offer for our educators who are relocating to the UK. So yeah, the ambassador program, which Delaney touched on briefly while she was talking about the supply work. So that's something that we offer to our supply teachers in the UK. So with that, you do have to complete 60 days worth of shifts over the course of a year, and then you'll be entitled to £250. So like you can put that towards, paying off for your flight or anything like that, or jet setting to Berlin for a few nights. But yeah, and then we also have an incentive for your contract roles. So that's just agreeing to a contract, whether that being pre-arrival or post-arrival with us, and then again, once you complete the 60 shifts in one setting, so at one school, you would be entitled to a £500 bonus from us. Again, that's a little bit more cash. You can put that towards the coffee or the pints. And then we do love a referral here at ANZ UK Education. A lot of the educators that we work with have been referred by a friend. So if you know anyone who is wanting to relocate to the UK, and maybe they, like we've said before, they don't have a background in education, but they're wanting to get into work while they're there as a TA, let us know, refer them on because you will be entitled to a £150 voucher once your friend or loved one completes 10 shifts with us, I think it is. So refer away, even if you know someone who's already here, like already there in the UK, make sure you pass on our details because we do love a good referral at ANZ UK.
Beautiful. And lucky last is just a little bit about our community and our events that we run. As Ains touched on earlier in the webinar, we love our community and we love to throw an event. So what we do obviously is we host events over here in the UK, but we also host local events in your local state as well. So we call them pre-departure events. Really good opportunity to meet some people before you leave. We've had quite a lot of success with some of our educators going along to quite a few of these and making friends and then moving over at a similar time and end up living together. So we do have that happen quite a lot, which is really, really lovely. So make sure you get along to the pre-departure events. You don't have to go to the one that is a few weeks before you leave. You can start going to them 12 months out if you would like to. It's just a good way to start networking. We do also have our Facebook group, which is Educators Moving to the UK. Would really recommend you guys jump into that group if you haven't already. We just use that as a bit of a forum where you guys can have a chat. We're also in there as well, so you can ask us questions and we can obviously post things in there as well that might be helpful for you guys to access. So really good resource too. And then obviously, as I mentioned, we do have our events over here in London. That is a really awful picture of me laughing in that photo, but that is from one of our events that we had. That was one of our events that we had in the summer last year. So as you can see, often it is in a beer garden somewhere having a drink. But we do run big welcome events for our educators coming over throughout the year. So we have a big one in September. We have another big one in February and then another big one in May. So our next one is coming up at the start of May. And then throughout the year, we also have other events. So we call them like kind of like a mini event. So we'll do things like we've got a Pilates series at the moment, which is called Pilates and Pints. So we have a Pilates class that's run for you guys for free, and then you get a pint afterwards. You'll notice everything is about pints over here. But yeah, doing lots of little bits and pieces, like things like theatre nights, even like just drop-ins to the office and coming to have a good coffee at the coffee shop next door. It's like Melbourne coffee, it's like proper coffee. Just little things like that where you have a lot of opportunity to meet other educators, but also come and have a chat with us. Like, I hope we're like nice enough to have a chat too. Like, there's a lot of us, like Jessie and myself, that have done the move, that have gone through that experience of what am I doing with my life? I've just moved across the world. It's really, really scary. So there's a lot of us in the office that have done a similar thing. So we are always here to have a chat. Yeah, have a vent too if you need to. And anytime where we can kind of get out of the office, we love as well. So yeah, so lots of opportunity to meet lots of people, and yeah, make some new friends, which is really nice.
Cool. Yeah, not sure if people's microphones are working. So, yeah, if they are, feel free to, sing out with any of your questions, or if you can furiously type it in the chat, please do. And yeah, we'll do our best to answer any questions that you have.
I'll go back to Angelica's question that she
Yes.
popped in before. If you choose to work as a supply or shorter term contract, are you likely to get constant work or will it fluctuate? I don't know, Jessie, if you want to answer that one. Did you see the question?
Yeah, I'm saying, yeah. Yeah, that's is Angelica a teacher or a TA?
Let's go,
That
like,
would
we'll answer both. We'll go with both.
teacher.
Teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd love to say that if you're not on the ambassador contract, then probably 9 times out of 10 would be able to get you out for either pre-books or like daily supply. So to answer your question, yes. I think it would be fine. Obviously, if you get into the long-term stuff, then that's probably a bit easier. You know where you're going in the morning and everything like that. But yeah, I'd say because if you're a teacher, you're logging in the morning, then you'd be easily be able to get you out sort of thing. So it would just depend, I guess.
Yeah, I think with teaching work, as I mentioned before, there is a lot more availability for supply work for teachers than there is for teaching
Massively.
assistants.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, very briefly, we do have something called an ambassador agreement, which is a guaranteed supply scheme that we offer just for our qualified teachers. So that could be an option to go into that. That just means we guarantee you 5 days of supply work. So that's always an option too. But I mean, one thing to consider, and it is a little bit different to what we have back home. I know we didn't really touch on it today, but we can chat about it further if you'd like. When it comes to your daily rate as a supply teacher is actually lower than your daily rate as if you're a contract worker. So just something to be aware of. It will make a bit of a difference there. But in terms of supply, you'll still have an abundance of supply. And obviously in a contract, you've got that kind of like locked in. So completely up to you. You can sort of like flick between the both. If you wanted to start with supply and then go into contract and vice versa, we can do that as well. But yeah, we would say if you're not on the ambassador agreement, 9 times out of 10, we'd probably still be able to get you out for work. It's just not that we could guarantee it to you like we would with an ambassador agreement. Cool. Oh, Amber, that's great. That's perfect experience. That's like bang on. That's what schools will look for. So that's great. Matt, what is the process for getting a QTS? Do you help getting that sorted? Yeah, of course. So QTS, if no one knows what that is, it stands for Qualified Teacher Status. QTS is something that is it's not mandatory for Australian and Kiwi qualified teachers. You can actually teach in the UK for up to 4 years without QTS. It doesn't change your pay rate, doesn't change your accessibility to work. It's just one of those things that teachers who aren't qualified from Australia, New Zealand or Canada will have to get because of their qualification. So the Australian and New Zealand qualification is recognised as the same as, if not slightly higher than some of the UK qualifications. So you can actually teach without it. If you would like to get it, we can definitely step you through that. It is very simple to get, and it is free, so we can talk you through that as well. It's very much just going onto the UK HMRC government website, and it will kind of like step you through it. But more than happy to like run you through that if that's something that you want to do as well throughout the process too. Emmanuel, I'm in Kenya. Am I required to do an IELTS exam? If so, what are the minimum scores? I'm not 100% sure what that is, unfortunately. We don't also offer work sponsorship. We mentioned a little bit earlier in the webinar, you can get sponsored through schools, but it is a little bit less likely unless there is a specific need for your subject and if you are a secondary teacher. If that's something that you're interested in, Emmanuel, it might be worth getting in touch with us. If you want to scan that QR code, if you want to get in touch with us, it might be worth us having a bit more of an in-depth chat to be able to answer those questions for you, because I think we might have to do a bit of a research into that, because we usually just support the educators coming off from Oz and New Zealand. So yeah, scan that QR code for us and we'll make sure that someone gets in touch with you to chat with about those specific questions there for you. Okay. Who have we got? Vanessa, graduating the end of 2025, completing a Bachelor of Education, looking to be first September. Amazing. When would you like to get in touch with your team to get things organised? Ains, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, sure. So that's just like real, like a personal preference. I talk with a variety of educators. So it's like some educators, they're not moving until like 3 years' time, and they just want to start off and start planting those seeds, get that initial information. So yeah, if you wanted to book in a call with us now, more than happy to have a chat with you and answer any questions that you might have. You can always get in touch with us at the start of 2026. We, like myself and Delaney, we tailor our service based on your travel plans. So feel free to reach out at any point when it comes to your relocation plans to the UK, and then we'll just help you from there.
Amazing. Ali, are there major differences in the UK curriculum I should prepare for? So this is actually a very good question, and the question happens a lot. As far as I am aware, the curriculum is relatively similar. As much as I understand, the UK curriculum might be a little bit stricter when it comes to what you're teaching and what you're not teaching. So there is a lot more, I guess, guidelines around that side of things. We've actually just also launched something called Growth Hub. Growth Hub is actually one of our, it's like an online resource for all of our educators who are either in our pipeline or already cleared and working for us. There's lots of resources and lots of training in Growth Hub where we'll go through things like that. So it'll talk through behaviour management techniques in the UK classroom, differences in the UK curriculum. It'll go through special educational needs things. It's got a range of resources in there. So really, really good option to jump into that and use that. Oh, apologies, my light has just gone off. But in terms of the UK curriculum, you won't expect anything crazy or out of the ordinary to what you're used to back home. I do have quite a lot of friends who are teachers, and obviously we speak to teachers all the time, and that's basically the feedback that they've given us. Who else have we got? Abhishek. As an early childhood teacher, would there be an opportunity to be a TA in primary schools? Absolutely. I think that happens quite a lot. Our early years educators often kind of feed into the teaching assistant roles in primary. I think it's a really easy transition and also a good way to upskill in different age groups as well. So absolutely. ECT setups require a lot of regulation and checks in Australia. Is it the same with the UK? With regulatory requirements and getting started. Are you referring to like the compliance processes, like going through your vetting and things like that, as in like police checks and that sort of thing? How would the experience from here be transferable there in terms of ease of transition, setting up and pay rates? Yeah, so in terms of the compliance documentation, that is a process for all of our educators, not just early years. So we do have quite a stringent compliance process, which we will go through with you during your registration. That will require things like reference checks. It will require Australian or New Zealand police checks. It will require a UK police check. It will require things like your working right documentation. It will also require your birth certificate information. There's quite a lot of things that we do go through. So yes, we do go through quite a lot of regulations and checks as a similar sort of thing, standard to Australia, if not slightly more stringent over here. How would the experience from here be transferable in terms of ease of transition? It's super easy. That's basically what we're here for. We help with that transition. There's a reason why we like to start this process for you before you arrive. It gives us that opportunity to get everything set up for you. So by the time you land, you are feeling confident and ready to go. So we will take care of all the nitty-gritty things for you. Helena, is there certain schools that are linked to your company? I'm a SEND teacher and I like the look of certain therapy schools in London. So a lot of the way the agency sort of works over here is we do have relationships with specific schools, but so do other agencies as well. So it's not like one school is tied specifically to one agency. If there is a school that you're really interested in, let us know what it is. We can check to see if it's on our books over here in the UK. If it isn't, the consultant's job is then to go and find that work through that school for you. So they can approach the school being like, we have this really great educator, really interested in your school, moving over from Australia or New Zealand. And yeah, they've specifically requested your school and they will go out and find that work for you at that school. So if there is a specific school, please let us know what that is. And then the consultant's job is to chase that for us. Callum, what subjects can I teach in secondary schools? Am I able to do A levels or GCSE? Would I be in middle school graduating from my Master's of Teaching with Eco and Business specialty? Jesse, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, with that degree, you would be able to teach A levels and GCSEs from there. So it just depends on if you're specifically working on supply or long term. So if you're working on supply and you're just doing general cover, then you could teach basically anything. It's sort of like pre-organized planned work. If you're specifically going into long-term placements, then a lot of schools would want you for your speciality. Economics and business is quite sought after over here as well. Actually, quite a few roles within the schools at the moment. But more specifically, if you're doing long-term, they would probably want you to do the subjects that you're specialise in, for example. But going back to the supply point, it's pretty generic. You can sort of, if you've got a teaching degree, they'll just want you to go in there to have the experience and to go in there to help out for the day, essentially.
That kind of feeds really well into Olivia's question. Any particular subject areas in secondary schools that are in demand? Yeah. So I think, I would say, no, I was going to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jesse, I would assume it's mostly the subjects like English, history, maths, science, all of like the core subjects are always really in demand. We often find if you do have like a more niche subject, we do still obviously get those roles, but they don't come up as frequently as something like a maths teacher would.
Yeah, at the moment, I think across the board in secondary, it's maths and science it's really, really sought after. But business and economics as well. Like there's a shortage of that, but even like English or humanities, there's a shortage over here. So at the end of the day, if you've got something that you specialise in, we'd probably be able to find you something pretty quick.
Awesome. Might just answer this last question just because I'm conscious of the time that we've run over. Ali, looking at QTS, notice you need a proficient teacher. Ali, have you been qualified for 6 months? Is that what you're saying? Or are you still in the process of being completely qualified? I'll just wait. Because if you have been fully qualified, that doesn't matter. You can just wait until you've hit that 9-month time period and go for your QTS once you're here and qualify by the end of the year. That's absolutely fine. You can teach in the UK, as I mentioned before, without QTS. So once you do hit that 9-month period, feel free to apply for it once you're here, but you can still be out here teaching as a qualified teacher. So QTS you don't need, it's not mandatory. Obviously, if you'd like to get it, that's great. But you can teach in the UK for up to 4 years without your QTS with your Australian or New Zealand qualification. Amazing.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. So sorry, guys, that you had to type all of that in. And yeah, for everyone hanging around, because we didn't keep it under the hour, but I do hope that's because we just gave you all the information that you needed and you were able to ask all the questions that you wanted to in the chat. If you are interested in booking a call with us and taking that next step, or you're not quite ready but you just want to ask some more questions, feel free to scan that QR code, and then the consultant that is in your area in Australia will be in touch with you. But yeah, we really hope that you enjoyed the webinar and you found it informative. You can also head to our website and apply there as well. But yeah, thank you so much. Thanks, Delaney and Jessie. It was Great. And that's, yeah, it's like 7 o'clock here, so like in the evening. So yeah, definitely tapping out.
Yeah. Enjoy your evening, guys.
Thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate it.